Most excellent. Steve, how are you doing today?
Good, good for a Thursday.
Now, the market almost put me to sleep a couple of times today, but I managed to snap out of it. Um, so, everyone, thank you for attending. We know you guys all have busy schedules, so we're always honored when you take time out of your busy day to come hear what Steve and I have to say. Got a good little crowd, got some good info for you guys today. Before we get going here, as usual, let's do the lawyer speak. Just want to make sure that everybody here is aware of the fact that we at Trade Ideas are publishers of information. So please don't misconstrue what we share with you here today as a solicitation to buy or sell securities or anything else for that matter. If you need that type of advice, please seek out the services of a broker or a registered investment advisor. Plenty of those guys out there. So just be aware that everything we share with you here today is strictly for educational purposes. All right, so as always, we're going to do the market recap and talk about Holly. But today was pretty interesting in a couple of different categories, and we're going to be showcasing that today. Simply put, slow day after the little run-up we've had over the past couple of days, so not completely unexpected, pretty much expected. After those slow, nice, steady little melt-up days that we've had. So I just wanted to show everybody this slide real quick here before we get in here to the meat of things. Learn, unlearn, and relearn. And that is really what we're teaching people to do when we're teaching the methodology that we so affectionately have called the Holly Trinity. So a lot of the times, we humans are very stubborn. I mean, we resist change at every turn, but it's the only constant. So the quicker that we can adapt and relearn, the better off we're going to be pretty much in all aspects of life. But man, that really rings true in the trading arena. So let's get going here. Okay, my toolbar has escaped me. There it is. All right, so hopefully everybody has eyes on my screen here.
Yes, sir.
And let's do this first, Steve. Let's just talk about the market today.
Yes.
And of course, everybody can see this little bar right up here. Let me expand the chart so everybody can see the bar that we had today. And
why don't you draw that little trend line that I drew again last night on the tops of those two wicks, just kind of showing us the bull flag.
Talking about this wick and this wick here?
No, the ones prior to that where we busted out of it, going back a few days. No, I'm sorry, I thought I drew it last night. It's on my screen, not yours. But it was kind of a little triangle, a little wedge that was being built. And again, going back 3 days is the first day we broke out of that wedge that was going down. And so we've had some melt-up movements, like, Jen, you said, there you go. Yes, that deal right there, even going back to that top wick prior to.
Gotcha.
So that was the setup, and I mentioned again last night, tons and tons of support there, above that orange line even a little bit is just the buyers 7, 8, 9 times tested that level. Way too intent to let it go, and I said, we're not in the business of predicting, but we'll find out where we're going soon because the price action is coiling like a spring, getting painted into a corner. And then, of course, on Tuesday, we had that first big green bar, that monster green bar, coming out of the price action being painted in a corner. We had some good follow-through yesterday. And then, as so many times happens, you start to exhaust a little bit. And what we have today was what's called an inside day. The high and the low are inside of the high and the low yesterday by definite proportions. And a very small body is close enough to call what we call a doji in the candlestick vernacular. It just basically shows there were no winners. The buyers and sellers were just slapping each other, having basically a slap fight, and neither of them, broke down. And we call this a very statistically noisy type of day. There is no follow-through in either direction, a lot of chop and back and forth and chop and back and forth, but these days will happen. This is typical type of action. You can't go up every day. got to regroup and maybe pull back and fill a little bit and give the troops a shower and give them a good hot meal and get ready to maybe storm the castle, which is probably, those two near terms above that one wick that's close to 210. And if the market does get beyond that, I mean, I'm trying not to get into prediction land here, but just, saying this is where the footprints are moving. They broke out of that down wedge, and now they're coming back up to assault those levels of supply and selling once again. And will we break through? I don't know, but that's a good lead-in to talk about some of the indicators we can look at using trade ideas in the volume scheme of things to maybe see what might happen as we hit these inflection points. And I know as we go forward here today, Jamie's going to have a really good example of today when the market was trying to find its range and test its range and push and prod. Looking at the volume can give us some interesting tells, and we'll see that visually here going forward. But again, the message today, and Holly will show this as well, no statistical direction, very statistically noisy, a lot of back and forth, and these are the days that you really got to be careful and recognize as well that they do happen, and some days you're better off not being as aggressive as you normally would. And I think, that's easy to say, well, Steve, you're saying that in hindsight, that's very easy, but no, not necessarily. In the first hour and a half of today, we could kind of see the sellers were negated again as a test came in, and it was just a narrow range. And when you look at the scheme of things, when you look at where we've come from where we have come, we had two really nice days on that daily, and so it makes perfect sense to kind of pause and reflect and give a little rest here. But these inside doji days that we had today are very statistically noisy. There's no winner. Like I said, it's just the buyers and sellers slapping each other, and nobody can declare victory at the end of the day.
I could not agree more, Steve. Very well said. And of course, looking at the intraday on this buy on these 5-minute candles here, what was the top up here? Most of the day was spent in this range right here. Not even a 50-cent range in this buy, or barely a 50-cent range in this buy. Kind of, taking a little excursion at the top here. But Steve kind of hit the nail on the head right there about how aggressive one should be on a day like today. Of course, we're looking at a chart, so one might say that's hindsight. However, we've got some things within trade ideas that if you know how to use them properly, can serve as leading indicators. I remember, not to wax nostalgic too much here, but, because of the tenure that myself and Steve and Dan and Brad have all had in the business, we can always reflect and go, well, I remember back in the day when we were sitting in the trading office, when we first learned about leading indicators being set up, and then we had some special monitors, and, we were watching the S&P
futures. Yep.
SPOOs, in other words.
It was before they had the SPY, I think.
Exactly. It was before the ETF, and of course the futures, even today, they're going to lead, the SPY ETF. That's just the way. That's the title. Futures. Now, maybe they're a good leading indicator these days. Maybe they're not. I don't watch the futures anymore because I've got other metrics to try to help me with that. But for example, 30 minutes into the market, I looked at one of my, kind of shook my head. I'm like, okay, it's going to be one of those days. Now, of course, we're leading, we're coming off these couple of days right here. So just because we're coming off a couple of these days, look in the past when we were coming out of the trenches, just because we've had a couple of days and we're butting up to some resistance, that's no guarantee of the future. But some of you may have be familiar with what I'm about to show you. For those of you who are new to the technology, you're in for a treat. So I just pulled a screenshot over here because I snapped this 30 minutes into the open, maybe 1 minute after, maybe it was 9:01, 9:02 Eastern Time, 7:02 my time. But this little guy is what we call a compare count window, and I'll pull one up in real time here, but I just wanted everybody to see this is what the window looked minutes after the open. Now this is looking at turbo breaks up and down, which some of you might be familiar with, but basically those two alert windows are showing us institutional buying and institutional selling on a daily basis. And so I think that's pretty good information to keep track of. As I always like to say, when it comes to trading and we're looking for pattern continuations, you pretty much want to go to where the party is. There's no point in going to, an empty club, right, where you're the only people there. That doesn't make sense. Just on the other side of that coin, let's say we're going to go fishing in the Colorado Rockies. We're going to do some fly fishing. This guy says, hey, I know this great river. There's no fish in it. You're going to love it. And you'd be like, you're crazy. I want to go where the fish are. Oh, okay, well, then you want to go over here. Simple logic, right? So the two windows that this compare count window, turbo brakes up and down, the two windows it's keeping count of are where the party is. So first 30 minutes, I'm like, is my window not updating? Because I don't think I've ever seen a flat-out 50-50 count. It's always 49-51, 55-45, but it's never 50-50. So, I was like, am I connected? And of course I was connected, and this was the actual reading. So that was the first tell that I had about what kind of day was going to unfold here. Bottom line, it tells me right off the bat, look, there's going to be trades out there. But you better be very selective because this is not the day.
And where was that thing looking like the last 2 days, the prior 2 days? What did that thing look like after 30 minutes after the open?
Right. And I'd just like everybody to know I've been archiving these windows so that we can start to establish some good data metrics. But the past 2 days, when we had this very nice upside action, we were looking at
70-30.
No. When we have those days, you'll know about it. But the past 2 days have been just barely above 60 to the green side. And that's one thing I'd like to add is when you're looking at a window of this nature, what are good readings, right? Well, a good rule of thumb is this. After the first 30 minutes, and of course I'd like to look after the first 30 minutes, but everybody's different. You might try looking after the first 15 minutes, after the first 30 minutes, after the first 45 minutes. I do all of it, okay? So typically on a day where we're going to have some decent movement one way or the other, if it's 55-45 or especially 50-50, 50-50 is going to make it even trickier. Now if you get 55 green, 45 red, once again, there's going to be some opportunity there, but you better be on your toes. Now, when you see directionals in excess of 60%, that's when things get interesting because these 2 days right here were just barely over 60, 61 and 62, maybe pushing up to 63. And you saw what kind of days those were. So imagine that's quality information. That's information that, guess what, 99% of the people out there doing what you're doing right now have no idea that that information exists. Well, it exists, but they're not displaying it properly. They're not reading it properly. It might as well be, Swahili to them. Now, when you see 70% one way or the other, or right after the first 30 minutes, 65, 70%, well, those are the days where you can pretty much, buy your initials or sell your initials and kind of be right there because that's when things are really in play. So, I'll be more than happy to drop this into the chat window before we all leave here today.
Yeah, I was going to anticipate that, yeah.
But this is definitely something that everybody needs to have in their layout day in, day out. Now, I think turbo brakes up and down is a great thing to have in there because, like I said, that's where the party is. But
that's
hey,
where the action is.
Everybody's got their own ideas. Everybody's got their own massive parallel computer that sits in the middle of your skull, right? And of course, the more you spend time with things like this, the more ideas you're going to have. So we'll make sure we drop that in the chat link for everybody. Okay, so having said that, once I saw that type of action, and we all know Holly usually doesn't start, she might start early sometimes, 15 minutes into the open, but most of the time, most of the trades don't get issued until past that 30-minute mark. So I'm thinking to myself, well, I better be on my toes. It also gives me realistic expectations on how to interact with Holly. So let's just go ahead and jump in here. And before we dive into her activity, Let me make sure this page is updated, which I believe it is, so we can just kind of get a peek here. You know, Holly's been doing her thing. We peaked out not too long ago, took a nice little snapback when things got choppy, started our rise back up to highs, and then after today, not a, you know, it's not out of the ordinary to see Holly take a little pullback today, which she did, and we just got this little downturn right here, and we're going to see what happens tomorrow. You know, she's going to be up or down again tomorrow. Who knows? All that matters is there's going to be opportunity created by Holly for us. So let's just get in here and take a peek here. Obviously, these were the strategies that were in the hopper today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, of which 4 were short and 5 were long. Of course, these guys down here did not issue any signals. This guy had 1, 1, 2, 9, and 14 respectively. And when we see the results today, you know, we got the Christmas tree effect going, but a little bit more red than green. Looks like the only strategy that pulled a little bit out today was the PV short. And then everything else was slightly negative. So on days like today, you know, once again, to reiterate, the statistical plays were there, but the noise was great. So on days like today, Holly is doing her thing, taking those landmines, taking the bullets for us. So let's focus on the non-exit column, which is where we focus on our trade arounds for Holly. And once again, you know, typically when Holly's green, everything's fantastic. There are some additional trade arounds, or what we call holds, that we can use where Holly is exiting, and there's not a whole lot of reason to get out. And then typically there are some stops that got hit that we could focus on for trade arounds, but on a day like today where we saw those 50-50 metrics, there's even less of those to be had. So, you know, Steve and I were giving it the once over today, and there's just not that many to take a look at today. I believe the only decent hold, or what we could call a trade around today for Holly, was in Man H.
Mm-hmm.
So focusing on the non-exit column here, 75 cents.
And not only that, sorry to butt in, but the exit reason, trying to just really hammer home the simplicity of the 3 exit reasons that Holly will take.
Mm-hmm.
Scenario number 1, target achieved. Hey, everybody's happy. She's going to get out and take a profit. You can get out and take half, leave half on the table, or get out. Again, it's a win-win deal. Everybody's happy. Scenario number 2 is stop hit. Well, if we look at the bottom here of this chart, Holly was doing her job. We've got to remind ourselves that one of the jobs that she does is demonstrate to us what a statistically professional or a statistically proven trader would do with no emotion. And what that means is no big losers. You will never see Holly take a big loser. The one thing that wipes most people out of trading is getting married and to one or even a couple big losers, and those big losers are so difficult to recover from. So essentially, you know, watching a very highly efficient trader, the AI, do her thing, taking small losses is the key. Now, you've heard us talk about trade arounds. I think it's again worth noting that today's narrow range doji day provided really no trade arounds. It's just yet another symptom of the type of day we had. Not only was it statistically noisy, but some of these trade arounds did not have the ability to move in another direction and move with some alpha to continue in that direction. Just a lot of tight range, a lot of back and forth, and that's evident by looking back and seeing the stop and the risk management that was taken by Holly. But to get back to the original point, the one thing that is of interest, and it's the third of the exit reasons for Holly, is the time stop. And this one can be the most innocuous because there's many scenarios. You know, first question you got to ask yourself is, as the shot clock is ticking and Holly is expiring, is where's the trade? Well, let's look at Man H. Let's double click on Man H and visually see the entry in Man H was right there and never really went below that level, 64, 69-ish. Thank you. And maybe a brief moment it did pop back up. But when the shot clock expired, you know, the stock was still positive on the day. And these are the ones that we just want to really hammer home. If the stock is positive and Holly's getting out because it's a time stop, you need to really ask yourself, do I want to get out with her and make, what is it, 9 cents? Or do I want to risk 9 cents and see what Jay is bringing down the aisle, which is really, really old reference for anybody over 40 that might get that. In this case, it did pay off to just say, hey, I'm not content with just making 9 cents. Why don't I give myself a hard or a mental stop back at the entry point, back at zero, back at flat. Not going to lose any money on this trade. It's still statistically viable, as it was called out by Holly, but the AI has exited. What do I want to do? And in this particular case, just allowing yourself that 9-cent wiggle to go back to a flat trade, or sticking around to see if there's some more juice and alpha on the board, well, that would have worked in this particular case. So the reason this example is being shown is, once again, on the third option of a time stop, and you're in the trade, is it positive? And do you want to try and look for some more alpha to the upside, or are you content, with taking what's there? That's the choice that you have to make. The whole idea of Holly is to serve up some great statistical trade ideas and get you in at a certain area, but when you want to exit is up to you. A great example from yesterday too, and I want to show this, is Navios Marine. Put up NM. Yesterday Navios Marine went out at 13%. Where is Navios Marine today? I'm sorry, it was OCN. OCN, I think, was an 11% winner. Why am I missing something here? Maybe I'm sorry, guys. I thought I had an example ready for you to show of a stock that went out near the 10 minutes to the close yesterday. Holly did not exit, and the point being, people say all the time, well, this is just a day trading platform. This is just a day trading idea generator. No, it's not. If you have a stock that's looking at its highs and it's 10 minutes to go and it's a solid day, it's up 12, 13%, it might behoove you to sell half and stick around to the other half and see what happens and see if you can get some more alpha on that. But again, the reason I jumped in there is just to try and remind everybody, it really is a simple factor. You get your time stops, you got your profit target hit, and your stop hit. You're better off following Holly on stop hits, because she's going to show you and demonstrate to you what proper risk management and money management is. And then on the time stops, you really got to ask yourself, do I feel like there's more on the table? And it's a gray box mentality, and it's up to you to decide what to do on those time stops.
Absolutely. And Steve, I think the stock you were thinking about was ONCE from the other day. Not yesterday, but maybe a couple of days back.
No, it was NM. It was Navios Marine. Navios Marine was a beautiful mover yesterday in Holly. I think it made 13%.
Right.
And then, but on the open, you had a little bit of time on the open. It wasn't quick. That was yesterday. And then look how it went out at highs there, just above the M. Mm-hmm. I don't use after hours on my chart, so I get kind of hung up on trying to decipher those. But there was a little spike on the open up to $1.10, and then it kind of settled back. But if you're an aggressive trader going out yesterday on highs, those are the kind of situations where you may be leaving some meat on the bone if you just get out for the sake of getting out, because the bell's coming up in 10 minutes and the stock's on highs. There's usually a little bit of follow through the following day.
Right. So the takeaway today is, hey, even if you're playing with perfect statistical probability, there just wasn't much out there today. Lots and lots of noise, a digestion day, and as we say all the time, sometimes the best thing to do is kind of sit on your hands for a little bit, be very selective. So, once again, on that compare count window that we're going to distribute, that's going to help you get an idea of what to expect moving forward, which is always good. And of course, we're going to share a little bit more of the leading indicator tools with you as well. So, looking at the rest of the trades that Holly pulled off today, if we sort the blotter by the closed losses, well, we can see that, on the good side of things, Holly's risk management is working. We took a 65-cent hit. That one went on down to puke up about $1.56. Slight trade around opportunity here, but nothing really to speak of. So this is a testament not only to the leading indicators that we're going to expose you guys to, but the fact that that actually means something, as we're seeing on Holly's blotter today, which is it's a very good reiterating set of data here. It really justifies what we're talking about as far as the leading indicators go. All right, so kind of a lackluster day all around. So what other leading indicators are we talking about, and what in the hell is Jamie talking about? Well, let's take a look here. We're going to pull up the SPY chart again. And Steve, when we were discussing it earlier, when they were trying to run the stops, but right about here, right?
Yes.
That's what we're focusing on.
Right.
So I've been giving this window out to a couple of people whose opinions I respect and think very highly of in the trading world, and they've all been giving very good feedback about it. So maybe some of you have seen it in the past. For those of you who are new,
yep.
Talking about this window right here called the SPY Watcher. Now, that's just what I named it, right? It can be any watcher that you want it to be. It can be, a Dow watcher, a Google watcher, an Apple watcher, anything with a symbol. It can be that watcher. So this one, obviously, is the SPY Watcher, and basically, it's got two different strategies residing within it. What I like to call my Sherpa green and red. So these are both inverses of one another. So when we hit configure here, what you're going to see in the green side is basically every bullish alert that Trade Ideas has to offer. I always throw these guys in there too because I just like them. They're more neutral than anything else. And if we look on the red side, you're going to see the exact same, but all of the bearish alerts with some of my neutrals down there. Okay, so this looks very busy, Jamie. How do you use it? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to target this area right here, which, pretty much encompasses 755 up to this bar right here to about 815 by the time that bar closed out. So a lot of the times what will happen is, hey, we came down initially, then we took a bounce. Real wiki type action as well. And then we're coming all the way back down, so what's going through everybody's mind? We're going to go back down and test those lows. We're going to test those lows. Now, what's going to happen? Are we going to punch through and head lower, or are we going to snap back up into the range? Of course, we can always look at some very fundamental things like, okay, well, we could go down to the body of the candle here, maybe. Of course, that's what everybody looks at. That's what we've all been trained to do. But you're going to come over here and you're going to take a look and go, well, if things get really hairy, we'll go down to the body. If they get really, really hairy, we might test this wick. But it's all unknown at that point in time. So how can we try to figure that out before it actually happens? How can we use this window as a leading indicator? All right. So here's the area of interest. So what I did, notice my time column. This window is currently in historical mode, which I access just by coming to history, and I remove the check from real time and scroll down to the proper time. So once again, 755 to 805, 810. That was this area right here where we put the bottom, and the little wick shot through, but then we snapped back up. So if you're watching this window in real time, and I'll just scroll back here to right about, this is right before we get to the bottom. Look how much information you're being fed about the SPY. This all came out in the same second. A few seconds later, you're getting this, this, and this. So anytime the SPY moves, that's an eyelash. You're going to know about it. And the description column here is going to tell you the event that's taking place. Now, the 1 minute time frame is currently the smallest time frame that we keep track of here at Trade Ideas. So what I've done here is I've installed 1 minute volume as a column. Now, a value of 100 is normal volume for this period, and we've got the 5 and the 10. So 100 is normal value regardless of the time frame, but we're using 1 minute here. So as these events start unfolding, when we're down in this area right here, what are we seeing? We're seeing all of those events take place at 35, 40, below 50% of normal volume. This bar right here is the 8 to 805 bar. Now here we are putting that wick in, right, between 8 and 805. Now we're seeing, volume spiked up to maybe 40%, and quickly fell back down again. Now here we are, because once we get to 805, this is the 805 to 810 bar, so we're already out of the woods. The highest we ever saw was 40% above average. Now, ladies and gentlemen, since I've been watching these types of windows for a very long time, I can tell you what to expect. If you don't see those volume levels as we're approaching and either penetrating that area of interest, a lot of the times you'll see them pop up to 200, 250, maybe they'll even top out at 300. But typically, if we're going to have a continuation, then they need to jump to 3 pretty quick and go higher, 3 and 4. That's really when you know we're going to have a continuation. But as soon as I saw this morning, I'm like, okay. My other leading metrics today, my compare count window, told me what to expect. Now I'm seeing it unfold in real time on this second attempt to go lower. I'm seeing these types of metrics. I'm calling a snapback into the range.
See, this is the kind of window, I'm sorry, but this is the kind of window that works great. Yeah, it takes up a lot of real estate and there's a lot of valuable information on it, but it's really only valuable at certain times of the day when we're testing levels of break up, break down, testing interesting levels. So we basically just use this in a minimized fashion, and then once the range of the day kind of sets itself up, going into the first 45 minutes of the day, as things start to test the upward and lower ranges of the day, you can unminimize this and bring it back up and just take a quick peek at it, and then put it back down and not look at it. But that's one of the better ways to utilize this. Now I do have a follow-up question because somebody does have a good point here in questions. Is it possible on the Spy Watcher to add other additional symbols, for instance the Qs or IWM, to try and monitor those as well? Or would it make sense to maybe just have them all individually or pick one of the 3? I don't know what the answer is. I'm just kind of spitballing here with you live, Dan.
Well, the answer is whatever you're comfortable with. I tend to focus, I only keep one symbol at a time in my quote-unquote watcher windows, but hey, everybody's got different appetites and different ways they like to see the data. So you could make a custom list in which you put, SPY and 2 or 3 other symbols, but keep in mind, due to the nature of this window, the frequency of the symbols coming through is tremendous, right? So plugging multiple symbols into a configuration of this type, I wouldn't do it, but I'm not going to say that anybody else shouldn't do it if they can keep up with it. Now, a simpler solution would just be to duplicate the window and then pop into the strategies, and all we have to do is pop into this tab right here and change the symbol to whatever you want, therefore making it, hey, you want to watch Apple? Maybe you're long Apple. Maybe Apple's hitting highs and you're thinking to yourself, should I get out here or is it going to continue? So whether it's the SPY and the whole market or whether it's just one individual stock, this window or this type of window can be extremely valuable because, ladies and gentlemen, is it magic that we're conducting here? No. This is the same data that we're pulling in from the markets that everybody pulls in. Now, we're just putting it into a form that makes a lot of sense. We're not relying on the old indicators to tell us when to get long, when to get short. We're recreating the way data should be viewed and which data is important and should be paid attention to. That's really the takeaway here, is that we're rearranging data into something that actually makes sense to us. And this is simple.
Scott, Mitch has a good question, wondering if there's an easier way to alert us when the 1 minute volume does reach a critical level on this particular multi-strategy window.
Absolutely. And that brings up a very good point. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to slide another window over here to help illustrate that point. Here's the takeaway, and actually we'll just leave it here for a second. You can develop a sense by the flow of volume and the increase or the decrease. So, you could approach it that way, but after it gets to 300, I don't want to see it just when it gets to 300. I want to. It's like jumping on the wave as a surfer. A surfer has to see the wave coming, then he has to get his timing down, and he has to paddle onto the wave, and then pop himself up, and then he rides the wave. He just doesn't appear in the tube magically, right? So this is very similar to that. You're like, okay, let's pretend that it's right. Let's pretend we're in this bar right here. All this has not happened yet. You're like, okay, we're going down to lows. I better de-minimize my SPY Watcher, and we start watching it here. Because if I put mins and maxes here, it would rob me of the flow, right?
Well, Jamie,
So I
what
like to
about,
see the values as they're coming out and see if they're increasing, decreasing, and how quickly and what numbers are being achieved.
sorry, is there a way to colorize the 1 minute volume to try and maybe use visual colors to call more attention to it? Is there a way you could do that?
Yeah, we can colorize columns, right? So like, for example, here's another top list that I like to use that focuses on volume. Now, of course, you can see here 1 minute volume, 5 minute volume, 10 minute volume. Now, this list right here is set to default sort by this color right here.
Mm-hmm.
So when I double click, you'll notice the gradient establishes itself based on these values in the relative volume number, or the relative volume column. Now, if I wanted to colorize, say 1 minute volume, 10 minute volume, or relative volume, you can always right click here and set up custom colors, right? And say, if this value is above 27 or 25, then I want it to be yellow, right? And we can set up colors like that, with just right-clicking here and going to custom colors.
Mm-hmm.
So if colors are what does it for you, sure, you can colorize any column that you want to just by right-clicking and selecting those colors. No problemo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, the reason I want to pull this window over as well is because it's going to tie in pretty good to what we've been exemplifying with this window. So, just to reiterate, we tested once, we popped back up, we came back down, we were able to ascertain that, indeed the SPY bounced. But let's say, we didn't maybe you're new, maybe you're watching this window and you're like, damn it, what Jamie was describing just played out verbatim, but you know what? I didn't take the trade on the SPY because I was still a little uncomfortable. Maybe after I see this happen over and over again, I'll start participating in it, which is a wise course of action. Just because you're given, a new thing to watch doesn't mean you're just going to go, well, Jamie said it was true, I'm jumping in headlong, boom, you're in the shallow end, right? So any prudent person, any prudent trader is going to take this, they're going to watch it, they're going to observe and go, you know what, he's right, I'm going to start taking advantage. But let's say you didn't bottom tick the SPY, you didn't buy it here, but you're like, damn it, well, here we are in the 815 to 820 area, right? The head of the snake, once again, has already moved, but you know what? I bet there are some stocks in the body that have not done that yet. Now, how could I quickly focus in on those stocks and hopefully capitalize on that? Well, we look at our top list here. So for those of you who are new, never had exposure to the product, this is what we call a top list. As you can see, it is just that. It's showing us things in a list format, but it's a very powerful list, and all the power is lurking underneath the surface here, which I can show you by right-clicking, hitting configure. So we set up a very basic filter set, just trying to keep the garbage out here. The stock must meet this filter criteria to even make it onto the list. So what is the power? What is the top list magical power here? And that is the ability to resort a very large list according to any metric that we're currently displaying here. So by default, these lists are set up to show us the first 100 stocks that meet our criteria. I'm just going to leave it on 200. Should be ample examples here. So now what I've done, notice the time here. I went back, and the historical functionality here, we set the date and the time. You can see I have it set to 8:20. So now this is showing me what the list actually looked like between 8:20 and 8:25 today, right about here, after the bounce had already been put in. So we're thinking to ourselves, okay, let's find some stocks that might bounce in sympathy with the SPY. How would we get there, right? Well, we want to look at all the stocks that are either at or just slightly off their lows. So this is what this column is showing us. Position and range, this is for the day. Stocks that are close to the left or close to their lows, stocks that are close to the right, close to their highs, but we can give it a double click. One more. So that's how quickly we can resort a list of 2, 4, 6, 1,000 stocks, right? Which I don't think there's a lot of places where you can do that, number one, and manipulate data this quickly. Everybody's like, it's a list. Yeah, but the fact that we can just double click and sort by any of these metrics, very powerful. So at this point in time, once I've identified these stocks at this time, the next thing is to target the ones that are doing below normal volume, because typically when the volume is exhausted, that's when we're going to see a bounce. So for example, LVTYA. Oh, look. Here is the 820 bar for LVTYA. Now, I sure would have hated to get long right here. That would have been a terrible trade, right? So you see, ladies and gentlemen, the methodology, and once again, this is yet another methodology. We have the Holly Trinity, where we show you how to interact with our windows, look at the footprints in the sand, which is the chart, and then take advantage of that with our price alert window, which we'll get to here in a little bit. But this is also a methodology, right? What is the methodology? Well, gee, the SPY's bounced. Let me find some stocks that will do the same thing. Then we go here. Then we target the ones with the low volume. And of course, LVTYA and K move the same, move exactly the same. But you probably already knew that. You know, hey, here's another one. SRPT. Volume was well below normal, starting to fade off on the 1 minute. Of course, it's going to go down here first and then follow into these larger time frames. But, you know, what you're going to notice is pretty much a lot of the same thing. Once again, here's the 820 area. You know, Wick's already been put in here for a good stop loss estimate, probably go a couple of pennies out. And once again, you've got another stock ready to bounce off the bottom. And of course, every one that you look at is not gonna be the same. But the good thing about it is the low has typically already been put in. All you have to do is target where the volume is dried up and make your play with a low risk. You know, we could go the opposite way. Hey, let's just target the ones where the 1 minute volume is dried up next to nothing. Maybe that's a good way to go about it. Oh, well here, MIT-K at that point in time was 0. We go look at the 8 area right here. Oh, wow, okay. There we go again, 820. So ladies and gentlemen, this is not coincidence. I don't subscribe to coincidence. This is just what is. This is what is, and what is a, whether it's to the upside or the downside, these methodologies, they work. All you have to do is get into the habit of putting yourself through these compulsory methodologies and simplify your trading. You know, once again, the beauty is in the simplicity here. You'll notice on my charts, I don't have any oscillators. I don't have any RSIs. I don't have any MACDs or slow Ks. You know, because bottom line, you just don't need them. Now, you could lay all those indicators over these charts and probably notice some correlations, but that's not what led me there, and that's, you know, that's what will never lead me there. The hardcore data that we're showing you how to dig for, that's where the good stuff is.
Good stuff. Hey, real quick, somebody's asking a question. We've been talking about that custom filter that some people have been writing in for to get the 1 minute volume on their in their palette. How do they know whether or not the 1 minute volume is there? This person's having a hard time finding that U25 setting.
Ah, okay. Well, here's what we do. We right-click in the alert window or the top list. We go to configure. What I like to do is just go to the search field, and whether you're on all alerts and filters or just filters, this makes it easier. Just scroll all the way to the bottom. That's where all of your U filters will show up once they've been added at the bottom.
Okay. Got
bottom
it.
of the filter list. Yep.
That's why they're not showing up in the search terms. You just got to scroll to the bottom and select.
Correct.
Is that the answer? Okay, there's your answer, Zen. Thank you for asking.
Yep, just scroll to the bottom of the filter list, and you are good to go. So, everybody needs to keep in mind here that, these techniques that we've been describing today, they're really beneficial for these inside doji days, right? But that's not to say that it's not always beneficial. Anytime the SPY puts in a top, anytime the SPY puts in a bottom on low volume, these counterplays, or what I like to call lag trading, I mean, these trades are there each and every day. You just have to know what to look for. And see, that's the problem with people coming into the industry, especially the new traders, is that number one, they don't know what they're looking for, right? And there's so many things out there to confuse you. But when you simplify it in terms like this, I mean, it really does resonate. And I urge each and every one of you to make an effort to use these windows in this capacity that we're laying out to you today, because it will benefit you. And that large parallel computer that resides between your ears, the old dog, new trick adage, that's a bunch of malarkey, all right? We're constantly forming new synapses if we work at it. And I can attest, because my brain has been reprogrammed over the past 10 years. And a lot of it, you don't even notice that it's going on. You're just like, okay, this again? Okay, I know what happens when this happens. I pretty much better do this, okay? It's reacting. It's not thinking in the middle of the trading day and going, oh no, is this going to go up or down? I'm getting nervous. Nope. You see something, you react, and if you get in the right frame of mind and you start reacting properly, the byproduct of that is trading profits.
Love it. Hey, speaking of the price limit alerts, those of you who were here last Thursday probably recall us setting and sharing, I think, 6 or 7 alerts. Let's check in with our price alerts and see what the feedback is telling us. Again, this is the best tool out there, especially for new traders who want to make their mistakes cheap, and by cheap I mean paper trading cheap, to find out how your eyeball is at catching the right type of entries and exits. And so what Jamie's going to do is just quickly sort by the ones that were set on the 19th of May. We can quickly eyeball, take a look at the P&L on those, and we're getting good feedback that what was discussed and set and shared last Thursday is moving in the right direction. And that's always a good feedback to get.
That is true, and I'm looking for my column. For some reason, I guess I covered it up.
The date set column?
Well, no, I just want to get my profit percentage column back on there. Or trigger, it was trigger percentage, right?
Oh gosh, it's a new feature. I can't recall. And that reminds me, as Jamie's searching for that, I saw through the grapevine that the latest beta version has come out, 4.068, I believe. I'm not quite sure exactly what the features are, but for those of you who've been following along on some of the features that have been added recently, there's a good chance that the new beta version 4.068 may have some of those features you've been seeing for the last week or two. So it is available at Trade Ideas, trade-ideas.com on the products page. Scroll down below the latest production release, and there's usually a spot there for you that says grab the latest beta version. And so for those of you early adopters who want to start getting a head start on some of these new features we've been applying, the beta version is now available for download.
Yes, sirree, and this is the column that I was just searching for that magically disappeared on me. Percent since triggered. And of course, as Steve so eloquently put it yesterday, I guess they didn't get the colorization memo on this one, so we're not seeing any colors in here, but this is the new column. It's just going to tell you what percentage value each trade is yielding for you, which is very eye-opening. So the good news here is that, I blanked my limit alert windows out Monday, so all of these are fresh, moving forward, and, what a nice little tally. Since the 19th, a lot of these things are working. We're up 8.72 points, and if we go back and look, this is a great way to show you, what a trend change lubricant trade looks like when it's working, right? So there's our entry day right there. Nice bust out and continuation. This is always what we hope is going to happen when we're talking about these types of plays here.
Not
So,
only that, look how that little red candle snuck in there and returned back to the scene of the crime. It gave you a
mhm.
second chance if you feel like you didn't want to chase that entry. And we do that a lot on these type of setups when we do pullback alerts. And a lot of times the proper area for a pullback alert is the area from which it broke out of. And you can get like a secondary type of entry. Um, Yes, somebody's asking, can we watch this class again? This class will be, this session will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Scott can mention more of that at the end of the webinar. But yes, if you've missed anything in here, you can catch the recording as it goes up to our YouTube channel within 24 hours usually.
Yeah, they are archived unless we have net problems, which hopefully we didn't have any today. I know Scott was having some yesterday. I even had some. We're on completely different web providers, but some kind of net congestion going on yesterday, but hopefully this one will make it to the upload. So once again, I just double-clicked on CYBR here just so everybody can see, obviously this was the entry day, but before this breakout occurred, that's what we're looking for. That's what we're constantly looking for on these trend change lubricants, and this is what they look like when they go and they work. Now, had this one not worked, our risk is pretty tolerable and we can see it. It's very visible, somewhere along the lower lines of this little base camp here. So, 8.72 points since the 19th, that is nothing to sneeze at. What does that do for me other than putting me in profitable trades? It lets me know that what I'm doing is working because I'm getting constant feedback from it. And that's a point we like to hammer on here is that, sure, everybody's paper traded, paper trade, paper trade, paper trade, write your stuff down. Well, a lot of information gets lost in the shuffle when you do that. We tend to focus on good things, and if we did make a mistake, we're just like, we're just going to pretend that didn't happen. Well, this panel right here, it will keep you honest, right? And it's in your face feedback every day. So, setting these limit alerts like this, we basically, yes, we have reinvented paper trading with immediate feedback. So whether you're a brand new trader, hey, you can do everything that you need to here to prepare for going live in the arena. If you're an experienced trader, then once again, you're not going to be missing any limit alerts, boom, boom, boom. And the beautiful thing about these guys is notice the note column. As Steve and I like to say all the time, we're going through this process and we're making these notes when we're nice and sane. Outside of trading area, outside of the trading arena, we're nice and sane and rational. We all know that if we don't keep constant tabs on our own emotional state in the trading day, all it takes is one mistake and then you go off the rails, right? So this helps us keep our composure during the market hours because when we see that alert pop off, we don't have to examine it. It's already been done. The homework has already been done. All you have to do is execute.
Yes, and it cuts both ways. If this P&L was red, it'd be telling you you're not doing a good job. You need to go back and sharpen your pencil and figure out a better methodology. Maybe your entry's too late. Maybe you're just taking a poor selection. But when your P&L is green like this, it's just another feather in your cap to know that we're trying to serve ourselves up trade opportunities in real time during the day rather than chasing our tail emotionally looking for the next hot trade. So when you've got a positive P&L on the aggregate of all of these trades here, when those alerts go off during the day, you've got confidence because you know that this is just part of what's been working, and so it gives you a good confidence. I know people are getting a little antsy as we're getting close to the end of the hour. I don't think we've shared the compare window, have we? And I want to make sure that we get that done before we leave this afternoon because you did such a good job of showing the value and explaining exactly what's going on.
Sure, and just to make sure I get the right one, I just spawned my default layout just to make sure I'm not giving people the wrong one. So boom, we're going to drop that into the old chat window like so. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, it's in the chat window, so you can just right-click and copy that guy and get that cloud link loaded up and just, start watching that guy, start taking note. And by the way, one more little add-on note about this compare count window. let's say after the first 30 minutes, you look and you see whatever the reading is. And here's another thing that I do so that I can figure out if the trend that I'm currently seeing is increasing, picking up steam, or maybe it's starting to come back the other way. So after the first 30 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever your first time zone is that you want to keep count of, I recommend doing this. So let's say it's after the first 30 minutes, you're like, okay, I see 60% green, 40% red. I right-click, I duplicate the window. The duplicate is going to start a fresh count right when it was duplicated. This one's going to keep his count since the open, but this guy's going to start a fresh count. So if we saw 60-40 green in the first 30 minutes, and then in the next 30-minute period, at the close of the second 30-minute period, maybe we notice 65 green, 35 red, which means, yes, there is a definite green bias, and guess what? It's picking up momentum in the second 30-minute period, or you might notice the waves start to shrink back. But in any case, it's going to be very, very, very valuable information for you guys.
One more order of business. You do have a lot of interest as well in the Spy Watcher. Is that something that is shareable?
That is shareable, and I highly recommend sharing it as opposed to trying to create it on your own, because it takes kind of a lot of time to make that one. So let me do this. Make sure we're looking at the right one here.
Oh, and by the way, while you're doing that, I want to respond quickly to a great question. Can the system be used to design and backtest strategies for swing trading over a few days? Yes, Rob, I did a demonstration last night in the Trade of the Week webinar. If you have access, I'll send you a link as well to the YouTube channel, but the Trade of the Week webinar, I spent about a good 15-20 minutes last night using the backtesting tool and showing you a setup that in all likelihood can be held for longer than a day and can be held for swing trading. But I'll go ahead and send you the YouTube channel link right now, and stand by.
Oh, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the trend change lubricant windows, which is what we use to find all of the nice setups, due to the day, there's just not a whole lot on here today. This is pretty much all that we had, and both Steve and I agree that the only one we want to point out to you guys today, it's just nice and simple. It's just one stock that you might want to keep your eye on for tomorrow, and that's AGN, Allergon. Once again, here's that pattern that we're talking about. The stock's been beaten down, it's starting to perk back up, establishing this little base camp right here. So, on a break tomorrow of today's high, Steve, it's already technically popped out.
No, it's doing everything we like by snaking along to the horizontal side, not expending all of its energy, doing some sideways action, building its strength, getting itself ready for the big push. What it doesn't have is a big short float component, but that doesn't mean it can't still work. I'd love to see a short float component of 20% on that one, but I think it's under 5 if I recall. But still, that's the type of visual setup that we're looking for, and I would definitely agree with you on your analysis of that one.
Yeah, so the pickings are slim as far as these guys go, but who knows what's going to unfold over the next couple of days. So AGN's basically the only one that we would say, keep your eye on it. If you don't, obviously we don't want to chase too much, but we'll see what it looks like on tomorrow's open. So I think we're just about out of time.
Yeah.
So Scott, if you're ready to come in here and talk about the upcoming price changes, I am ready for you.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and pull the slide up. So we are going to be simplifying our pricing schedule, and we are doing the change on June 1st. So 1st of next month is when we're rolling out the change, but until then we still have the current Trade Ideas pricing schedule, and this makes it a good opportunity to actually get the lifetime AI strategy and odds maker license, which is something that's being retired. We're going to be changing our service tiers a little bit to simplify it for new people. And I'm going to explain that a little bit on the next slide, but right now I'm just going to talk about what our current pricing is for people who may not be familiar with it. So as a software as a service company, our core subscription is $99 a month, and that includes all the real-time data, your exchange fees we pay for you, our charting that we just launched last summer, a really great free one-on-one training session, hour power training with either Steve or Jamie. Just as soon as you buy Trade Ideas, go to the support page, click on training, and there's a nice little interface with the calendar there for you to pick your favorite available time, and we'll just go ahead and do that with you. The $888 per year annual plan has everything the monthly plan has, except it saves you a lot of money every year. And both of these are recurring with no obligation for a contract. They automatically recur, so you don't have to worry about signing up again and again. The AI Strategies and OddsMaker license is a one-time $1,100 investment, and that goes along with your active subscription, and it gives you full unlimited access to Holly, the AI, the OddsMaker backtesting tool, which is what Holly evolved out of, and you can use that OddsMaker tool to do your own optimization of your own strategies without programming, like TradeStation does. TradeStation, you got to program. It's just one stock you're backtesting. With our system, you can backtest any list, the entire universe of North American stocks, or any of your lists or exchanges or whatever, and refine your own strategies, or use Holly, or use price alerts and all that kind of great features. So what we're sunsetting is that one-time license cost of $1,100. That was our cost when it was only the OddsMaker, before we had the AI, before we had price limit alerts. So what we're doing now, and you can forward to the next slide, is on June 1st, we're rolling over to this new price schedule. So this simplifies it, because now it's just, do you want regular trade ideas or premium? And do you want that monthly or annual for each? So the TI Core, or we'll probably just call it TI Pro, is just $99 a month or $888 per year, just the same as I described in the last slide. And then if you want the AI, it's just it's less than $100 more a month. And that's really reasonable. It's $188 per month or $1,888 per year, and obviously that saves you a lot over the $188 per month to go in for the year. And just like the other ones, it's no contract. It recurs automatically. It's just a recurring membership. Those of you who are already subscribers will be able to be grandfathered in to still purchase the $1,100 lifetime license for a while. So if you want to go ahead and just subscribe to Trade Ideas and then pick that up even after we've done the price change before the end of summer, you'll be able to do that, not a problem. But we do recommend getting into the AI now if you want to save money, because we're not going to be offering that one-time license cost again after June 1st on its own, if you're not already a subscriber. That page that you see the URL for at the top, trade-ideas.com/price, if you just type that into your browser, you can visit a page that explains this again in some more detail. Or you can go to your handouts panel on your GoToWebinar interface, and there's a PDF there that you can download with this information and also the sale information I'm going to talk about on the next slide. If you and you can go ahead and forward to the next one too. And to thank everyone for coming to a webinar, we always give a little bit of a discount, and this one's a good one. It's Holly25 is the product code, and it's all capitals. It has to be entered all caps. It's case sensitive, HOLLY25. So you can try us your first month, just $49 a month for your first month, then renews at $99. So if you're not sure about Trade Ideas, just do that and take the training and go to Barry's free trading room every day. Come to our webinars. You'll get a fast onboarding. Take the hour power training. You'll be up and running like right away. That same code lets you take 20% off your first year. So if you want to upgrade from monthly to the annual, great way to do that. $710 for the first year, $888 recurring. That same code, real big here, 30% off that OddsMaker license. So it's $770 lifetime, and remember that's going away. Normally it's $1,100. This code Holly25 expires May 27th. So tomorrow evening, Friday. It's only good until the end of business Friday. And then we've made it really easy. If you're good at math, you've already done the math, and you can see that you can get if you pay $710 yearly for the first year, and then $770 for lifetime for the OddsMaker, that's only $1,480, right? And then on the next slide, which Jamie kind of jumped the gun on there, but we have a page up where you can do that right away. And it saves you $508 immediately, because normally that combination at full price would be $1,988, so $1,988. With the product code Holly25, it drops that combination down to $1,480. And a real easy way to get this combo is just to go to that short code linked either on your handout that you just downloaded, or go to bit.ly/AI Holly. And the AI Holly, again, is case sensitive, so it's all caps. You go there, it takes you to a page where you can just click through the $1,988 purchase button and then enter the code on checkout, and it drops it down to $1,480, saves you over $500 right away. And then you're locked in to have the OddsMaker and the AI and the price alerts for life, as long as you have an active Trade Ideas subscription. And then it renews at only $888 per year. And again, not a contract. So after that year, if you want to take off a year, hey, maybe you'll make $1 million, take a year off, and then come back and trade some more, and then renew your subscription. Who knows? But it's this is what's going to be sunsetting, and this code expires on Friday, so it's the last time we're ever going to offer this. If you don't jump on it, you're going to be kicking yourself next week when we change your rates. That's all I'm saying. So if you have any questions about this, email us. info@tradeideas.com is the best way to get in contact with support staff. Steve's easy to get, Steve@TradeIdeas. Jamie is J Hodge, so it's first initial last name at TradeIdeas. And have a great evening. Thanks everyone for attending. There should be a recording up late tonight or tomorrow morning if the recording worked. And thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Jamie.
All right. Have a good weekend.
Cheers.
Happy trading, everybody.